Eugenie Sage.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker, thank you. Pleased to take a call on behalf of the Green Party for the Greater Christchurch Regeneration Bill. The Green Party will be supporting the bill at first reading to Select Committee because we are very interested in hearing public submissions on it. That said, we do have a number of concerns with the bill. I guess the options open to the government were to allow the SERA Act to expire and then to go back to the normal processes under the Public Works Act in terms of land acquisition and the Resource Management Act, or to amend the existing SERA Act and extend its time frame, or to go ahead with new legislation, which is obviously what this bill is doing. And we're certainly pleased that the SERA Act is not being extended because it is a very draconian piece of legislation. It has centralised a lot of power in the beehive and had the Minister for Earthquake Recovery making major decisions about the future of the city, and it has shut out the public from having significant input into the demolition of heritage buildings across the city, for example. It has significantly truncated the normal processes under the Resource Management Act for public participation in planning documents. The Littleton Port Recovery Plan is one. The Christchurch District Plan Review is going through under a different process from the RMA. So we're glad that the SERA Act isn't being extended and that we've got new legislation. And the concern is that the quite significant powers that are given to the Minister in the SERA legislation are carried over into this bill. Honourable Nicky Wagner said that they were remnants of the SERA powers. They are fairly significant remnants. And they are significant, Mr Speaker, because the powers available both to the Minister or the CEO of the new agency, which, as others have explained, will be a joint agency between the Council and Government, include the ability to suspend, amend or revoke RMA documents, council plans, regional land transport plans, plans or policies under the Local Government Act. They allow the Minister to amalgamate any land acquired under this bill or the SERA Act, and the Chief Executive of Regenerate Christchurch can carry out or commission works such as demolishing buildings, restricting access, closing or stopping roads. So these are quite significant powers, particularly the powers to override existing RMA documents and policies and plans under the Local Government Act. I acknowledge the government has put in the bill some constraints on those powers, that they've got to be in accordance with the purpose of the legislation, and they've got to be deemed to be necessary by the Chief Executive or the Minister. There are other safeguards too in relation to regeneration plans, which require the Minister to consult with the strategic partners, namely the Christchurch City Council, Waimakariri and Selwyn District Councils, the Canterbury Regional Council and Te Runanga o Ngāi Tahu, and to have particular regard to their views. That is a good test because it does indicate that the Minister will have to take those views into real account. And the agency is to be subject to the Official Information Act. We applaud that, but the scope of the powers is still very wide. And it is a giant experiment, really, in urban planning that this bill is embarking on. The government has not yet introduced its RMA changes. We suspect that those will significantly reduce opportunities for public input. And here with this bill, in the way in which it overrides the normal planning processes under the RMA, to theoretically advance the purposes of regeneration, to have an attractive, livable city, is an experiment. And what the experiment has been with SERA, of course, is that the public isn't always able to be involved and their views aren't heeded as much as they should be. And we've seen that with the disastrous proposals by SERA for Victoria Square and the major changes there. And we've seen it also with the extravagant expenditure on the Avon Otakaro River project, 98 odd million spent there. Again, nobody actually said they wanted that. And we've seen it too in the squandering of the really strong support for a much more sustainable city that came through in that massive and innovative consultation exercise that the City Council undertook with Share an Idea. So yes, we will be supporting the bill, but we'll be very interested in the submissions that come through and what Christchurch people think by having the Minister retain the power to sign off on all of these regeneration plans. And just a point too about this Crown agency, or the Crown company, which is being set up under the bill to deliver the anchor projects. We had the CEO of SERA in front of the Finance and Expenditure Committee earlier this week, and the opaqueness which has surrounded the anchor projects continues. 280 million was originally proposed to be spent on a new convention centre. That bill is skyrocketing, yet there is nothing available to the public in terms of the details about the business case. The CEO was unable to tell the Select Committee who would even own the convention centre, despite the hundreds of millions of dollars of public money that is going into this project. So this Crown company that's going to be delivering the anchor projects, whether it's accessible under the Official Information Act, and whether there will be any increase in the transparency with which those anchor projects are being planned. Because, Mr. Speaker, the massive amounts of money that are being put into the anchor projects, the huge financial burden they are on the Christchurch City Council, the fact that the council's had to significantly change its long-term plan with the proposals for asset sales to generate revenue in order to fund its commitment to these anchor projects, for which we have yet to see any detailed business cases which show that they are justified, that they will generate revenue, and that they actually meet the needs of Christchurch citizens. They are potentially white elephants, and this bill, with its Crown company being proposed to deliver them, may not be any improvement on SERA and the opaqueness with which SERA has proceeded in terms of all of the anchor projects. Mr. Speaker, the regeneration plans and the prospect of those are being welcomed, certainly by residents in places like New Brighton, because of the major changes that the earthquake has caused there and the major loss of population. But these plans must be about sustainability. We haven't seen that as a major thrust in the other plans which have been developed. With the Port Company plan, for example, we're seeing a major increase in the reclamation that the Port Company is proposing to deal with an increase in container traffic, yet we haven't seen adequate attention being paid to the impacts that will have on loss of amenity values in the harbour, the major changes to the crater rim bluffs to provide rock for that reclamation. We're seeing lost opportunities with a lot of the building that is happening in the central city, great sheets of steel, probably imported from China, when we have in the city of Christchurch world-leading expertise in the use of laminated wood for buildings, but we are not seeing the government encouraging the use of that technology. We are seeing road widenings, some cycleways being initiated by the City Council. We haven't seen a major increase in the frequency of bus services. ECAN has really dropped the ball, and the Green Party has proposed an integrated transport agency to actually significantly improve public transport in the city, but we are not seeing that investment by government. Instead, it's going into major new motorways. So this bill, Mr. Speaker, has the potential to set a course for a much more livable, sustainable city, but it needs, in terms of the way in which Regenerate Christchurch operates, the people who are appointed to that to take to have a much more reflective look back at the ideas that came through in Share an Idea. And we also have concerns that that board of Regenerate Christchurch is going to be appointed both by the Council and the Minister, but they need to be in communication with citizens because they don't have that accountability that an elected mandate would provide. So, Mr. Speaker, we will be supporting the bill to Select Committee, but we will also be supporting Megan Wood's amendment so that the public get a good chance to comment on the bill. Thank you.